The rain has seemed to follow the F1 circus from last time out in Monza to here, the Circuit de Catalunya, for round 10 of the 2022 season and Spanish Grand Prix. Last time the teams were here, they were testing their cars in preseason, and come Friday practice, it seemed equally testing for them as the entire grid struggled for grip in the torrential rain. Forecasts suggest that this rain will let up as we go into Sunday, which is going to throw the form book out the window for the grid with no meaningful running on Friday. Ferrari had hoped for a smooth entry into the weekend off the back of an absolutely devastating home Grand Prix, but Arrivabene was in fighting spirit, saying both championships are still wide open. Audi and Red Bull, however, have been so consistent as of late that the paddock is starting to lose belief it's a true three-way fight for the constructors. And Mercedes are another team hoping for better this time around, although their situation was far more dire, with Mick Schumacher suffering an engine failure and Verstappen an MG UK failure causing his brakes to go. With the torrential rain set to continue for Saturday, however, it will truly be potluck and down to the drivers to avoid mistakes and keep their car on the road to place well on the grid for the race come Sunday. Let's take a look now at the starting grid for today's Spanish Grand Prix. After a soaking Saturday that saw full wets used for all three of the sessions, it's Verstappen on pole for Mercedes, and on the front row, once again, it'll be Charles Leclerc with an over quarter of a second to the rest of the field. No surprise to see the leading Red Bull will be Gasly, but what really shocked the paddock was Lando Norris making it to the second row of the grid, starting from 4th position, and as per usual, joined by his teammate right behind him, just over half a tenth between them, with Ricciardo in 5th and ahead of the leading Renault of Ocon, just over a tenth of a second between them. On the 4th row, we find the leading BMW, but it's not Perez this time, as Bottas was quite a bit quicker in the wet conditions than the Mexican. He'll line up alongside the other Renault of Aitken. And completing the top 10, it's Carlos Sainz for Audi in 9th, along with the other Red Bull of Giovinazzi, who just couldn't seem to get a lap together in Q3. Never mind Q3 though, the other Ferrari of Arab struggled to get a lap together in Q2, and as a result was knocked out, narrowly getting the edge on Perez though, and with all the cars ahead also starting on whatever tires they choose due to the wet conditions. Van Dorn will start a bit further back than usual from the 7th row of the grid, but another shock here as Vettel will start behind the Belgian and from way down in 14th position. Mercedes really had the most bipolar qualifying, with one man on pole and the other, Mick Schumacher, starting from way down in 15th place, almost 4/10 slower than Vettel and more than 1.2 seconds slower than his teammate. He's joined by the leading Alpha of Ilott. Once again, Nico Hülkenberg is the leading Haas and will start ahead of Kari, who just can't seem to break free of the back two rows. And it's the same two drivers once again at the rear, but the other way around, Fuoco ahead of Verline for the 2022 Spanish Grand Prix.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Aarava here, and welcome back to my F1 MyDriver career mode, episode number 10 today for Season 8 at the Spanish Grand Prix. If you guys did miss episode number 9 at the Italian Grand Prix, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one annotation in the top right there. But we're here for a absolutely soaked Spanish Grand Prix weekend so far. Torrential rain on Friday and Saturday. Only now on Sunday is the rain letting up, and we've got intermediates strapped on as we go on through this formation lap. And of course, we ended the Italian Grand Prix on intermediates, and following that race, well, after that, spoilers obviously if you haven't seen that episode already, but after that, the standings look like this. Pierre Gasly leads the way, but only 2 points to Carlos Sainz, then ahead of myself in 3rd place with 105. So we trail by 6 to Sainz then, and then the further 2, of course, to Gasly. And then Leclerc got robbed of what was another second potential win of the season he didn't get, and he's down in P7 there, in between Antonio Giovinazzi and Max Verstappen. So I don't know, the paddock is starting to lose a little bit of faith in Ferrari, but you know, guys, you know me, you know the faith I have in me and the team, and we're not going to give up, and we've still got plenty of time left in this season to go. And even though we haven't qualified so well, it was a difficult Saturday for me, I think we can still do well. Potentially it's going to be drying out towards the end of this race, so let's see what we can do here at the Spanish Grand Prix. It's going to maybe be a bit of a nervy start on intermediates here, but here we go to 5 red lights for round number 10 of the 2022 season. 5 lights are out and we're underway, getting the power down really well compared to Antonio Giovinazzi. It's been a great start for us up into P10 alongside Carlos Sainz. We're going to find ourselves on the right hand side of the track, so trying to go down the inside. Meanwhile, I think that was my teammate trying to maybe make a move on Max Verstappen for the lead, but no, oh, he's been tagged. Leclerc's round on the right hand side. My teammate, with all the bad luck in the world in the last couple episodes, has been tagged round by Max Verstappen. I think we're trying to go around the outside of Carlos Sainz, but my teammate's last. We're off circuit a little bit. We have to lift off on the rumble strip. There's no grip there as Lando Norris is in P2 now with Gasly in P3. We're trying to still find our way around the outside of Carlos Sainz. Not worked out. We have to tuck in, but now can we dive it down the inside of the Spaniard and one of our rivals in this championship so far. A little bit of contact there on the rear tyre. We try and plant the power and looks like we have the better grip compared to the Audi, but then obviously the power is going to kick in for the Audi and then he has the advantage. So it's all about for us trying to get the traction down faster than him, and we have got it round the outside, just tiptoeing round up this hill. Not flat out, of course, in these conditions by no means, and so that was a very cautious and tricky start, but we've made it work, unlike my teammate here who has been completely sideswiped and spun out by Max Verstappen, and I'm not too sure if that was a racing incident. I want to say it is, due to just the nature of turn one. It tightens up a lot more than you might think, especially for the inside car. So Leclerc got a great getaway to try and take P1, and then, oh, very, very unfortunate. There's just the slightest of taps there on the rear right tyre for Max Verstappen, and so he leads the way then, the Dutchman in the Mercedes car, who did a fabulous job to get pole position outright anyway on Saturday. And then is Lando Norris, who's the lead McLaren in second place, and Gasly who's in a sandwich because Ricciardo is in P4 then. So the McLarens seemingly working a lot better in the rain than they do in the dry. Obviously the chassis must be pretty damn good in McLaren there, and the Jaguar engine not too bad in the wet for them. And then you got the two Renaults alongside the BMW of Sergio Perez, or no, Valtteri Bottas I should say. Bottas doing a much better job than Perez in the intermediate so far. I think Perez is actually behind us and behind Carlos Sainz. So here we are now catching up to this the second Renault here in the line of Jack Aitken. Obviously Ocon ahead of Bottas here. We lock up and Ocon is locked up as well, and we're trying to make our way around the outside of Aitken. Then you can see mistakes galore then for a lot of us here, and it's all about just trying to find the grip and suss out as you go along. You know, there's no guarantees in these kind of conditions where the grip is going to be, so you're just constantly on your toes, on your wits about you, trying to drive around the circuit. And Carlos Sainz is just doing that as he goes around the outside to the inside then of the last chicane to overtake the Renault. And so me and Sainz are both making our way up. So obviously two title rivals this season, and both of us on a mission to try and climb up and at least catch Pierre Gasly up ahead in P3. Meanwhile, his teammate Antonio Giovinazzi in the other Red Bull car is defending from Sebastian Vettel in the Audi, who had an equally torrid time in qualifying along with me on Saturday. Both of us making mistakes and being knocked out in Q2, so having to make up for it for sure. I'm making way more time up than Sebastian is so far in this race. We now move on to lap number 3, and once again still just trying to find our way, trying to find the grip, going a little bit wide now, tucking back in for the racing line, trying to get the power down as early as we can, but I don't think we'll be able to make a move into the chicane, to be honest, on Bottas. We're going to have to stick behind. You can see a bit of a train forming here behind Bottas. There's a bit of clean air ahead of him, so I want to try and get ahead as it's still Lando Norris from Gasly, Ricciardo, then Esteban Ocon. Then here we are now trying to get the power down, rear end stacked out, but now down the main straight, pit straight on lap number 4. We've got Valtteri Bottas, and I wonder, will Carlos Sainz have the power to get past Bottas? He's going to try it. Carlos Sainz around the outside of Valtteri Bottas, but he's gone wide. He's gone wide, the Spaniard has, and at his home Grand Prix makes a mistake there into turn 1, and Bottas keeps that P7 ahead of Sainz. But of course, as the race goes on and as it potentially dries out, that Audi is going to get faster and faster due to, obviously, it's not got great aerodynamics compared to a lot of the grids, but obviously it's got that engine power that it can just easily plant down if it gets drier, when it gets drier. But you can see now on the very next lap then, Sainz is past Valtteri Bottas then, and he makes that move, and he's up into what will be P7 as we now close up to Esteban Ocon now. And I think this was actually on the same lap, so technically that was a replay as we go down the inside then of Ocon. Close stuff in turns 1, then 2 on the outside. It's oh so close to the right hand side on the rumble strip there. We make it round, feed the car through, and we're up into P5. And I think, yeah, that was definitely on the same lap then as Carlos Sainz made that move. And now we've got a lot of clean air to try and catch up to Daniel Ricciardo, the first of the McLarens up the road. But still, it's Max Verstappen that leads the way, and a very commanding lead actually from Lando Norris, who's doing a great job to keep Pierre Gasly behind. But you can see there, obviously, the full wet conditions are very, very different to the intermediates, and so I'm finding a lot more confidence. Carlos Sainz is as well as a lot of other drivers around here compared to what was on Saturday and Friday. You would have seen the practice portion of the video at the very, very start. It was really treacherous around here. These conditions, though, are a lot more timid than it was on Friday and Saturday. So finding a bit more confidence, and hopefully, if it starts to dry up pretty damn soon, you know, the form looks out the window. No one's done any dry tyre running at the Spanish Grand Prix. The last time we did was all the way back in pre-season. So we're just going to have to see how it goes. But fingers crossed that my Ferrari car can be pretty damn good, because, of course, with the updates we had back at the Monaco Grand Prix, our car, theoretically on paper, should be one of the fastest cars on the grid right now. And we kind of had that at Italy, and obviously rain changed that. And you can see now Lando Norris has come in, and it's also going to be Esteban Ocon in, and I think that's Sebastian Vettel in for a pit stop. So I think those guys are all coming in for the dry tyres potentially, because my teammate's also in. So Leclerc from the back of the grid, he's in, and we go a little bit wide into turn 1. You can clearly see actually a difference of only half a lap, and it's dried out completely almost. It's stopped raining, and the spray has already reduced quite a bit there. So by the end of that lap 6, we are in, and we're going to go on to a set of hard tyres. Like I said, I have no idea what the tyre wear is going to be like, what the pace is going to be like. So I feel like I need to play it safe, leave my options very, very open. And so I'm going to go to the hard tyres, and then I'll assess what I need to do. Do I need to go onto softs later or mediums? We'll see, but I don't want to make a gamble of going on softs and then having to do 2 more pit stops rather than 1. But I think the immediate question right now is going to be, did those guys who came in 1 lap earlier get a big undercut or not? Because there goes the BMW car of Valtteri Bottas, and then also the McLaren on the very left-hand side shot, and there comes the Renault then, and Audi of Carlos Sainz. We come out the pit lane, it's so close with Esteban Ocon there side by side. We lose time there, we try and plant the power down, but of course I've come out with stone cold tyres. Those guys have had 1 lap to heat their tyres up, and so Sainz is past us and Ocon. So we have lost 2 places then by staying out 1 more lap. But of course I had no idea it was going to dry up so quickly, and immediately now Carlos Sainz is be right on board. He's going to open DRS and have a good run at the Frenchman in the Renault. He goes down the inside, it's a diving move, he fakes the right a little bit, then to the inside, so a lovely little move there from Sainz, and he's up the order, and Ocon now makes a mistake. So now can we try and get the Frenchman, and right up behind us, up our gearbox, is Stoffel Van Dorn, and then looky, I think it's Charles Leclerc, it's my teammate there. So Leclerc, he was at the back of the grid, and now he's actually closed right back up to me. You know, he's already made his pit stop onto medium tyres, I think that is. So Leclerc has bounced right back up into the fight here. So excellent job there from my team and him to come in 1 lap early and gain so much time there, and that bodes well. If Leclerc gained about, you know, nearly 8 positions in the undercut there, that bodes well for the pace of the Ferrari car in the dry. So as we get past Ocon there with some ease down the inside and the aid of DRS, I'm now going to start licking my lips about the prospect of catching these guys now. Max Verstappen still leading the way from Lando Norris. Pierre Gasly in 3rd place. They're trying to chase after him, and still Daniel Ricciardo, the car after him. So the 2 McLarens still doing well, but now it's going to be a case of how long can the McLaren stay in those positions, because on paper, on the dry, they shouldn't be up here. The Australian has the Finn Bottas chasing up in the BMW car, and then behind them, not too far away, is going to be the pack with me and Carlos Sainz. So along with also maybe potentially my teammate there who was behind the Jaguar, like I said. So we'll see how it goes. And also, it appears, also I forgot almost about the Red Bull of Antonio Giovinazzi, who's also jumped all of us actually then, because Gio is on the dry tyres, of course, so he's jumped everyone. So Gio's done really well on the Red Bull, so fair play. But as you can see there, 3 different fast laps of the Grand Prix there, set by not only my teammate, but Sebastian Vettel, as well as myself there at the end. So it's just about a case of everyone's just going to find time in time as we go on here. It's going to be about basically who can adapt to the dry conditions faster than the others. And now we're going to send one down the inside of not only Sainz, but also Giovinazzi, as he's stuck behind the junior Ferrari driver, Callum Ilott there in the Alfa Romeo. He's up in a lofty P6. He must have hit right early, maybe even 2 laps before everyone else onto the dry tyres, and so he's actually up here legitimately in P6 trying to hold up a train here. So fair enough, but he's actually helped us out there, because he's held up Gio so much there that I sent it down his inside of 2 cars there. So thank you very much. And so now hopefully we can make an easy pass on him. Obviously he's got all the right to defend, but being the Ferrari junior car, hopefully they won't pull up too much of a fight. Down the inside we go, a big dive bomb, a little bit deep into the corner, but we do make it, and we're up into P6. Thank you very much, Ilott, and now I hope you can try and defend Giovinazzi as much as you can. But it's Gio ahead of Sainz, ahead of Ocon, Van Dorn, and then Charles Leclerc in that big train there. But fair play, you can see there clearly, people like Ilott, Giovinazzi, Leclerc, Van Dorn, they've all gained so much time in that undercut period, switching from inters to the slicks, and that's what can happen when you make those strategic gambles in these changeable conditions. You can make so much time up like that, and you know, Ilott was way down in, like, I think P17 in the intermediate conditions, and he's now up in what is P7 after I overtook him. So amazing stuff. But Carlos Sainz makes a lovely move on the outside of Giovinazzi then, and so like I said, the Audi is just getting faster and faster and faster as we go and the track gets drier and drier and the grip improves. Obviously, it's a green track due to the water washing away all the rubber. But as the track gets rubbered in, that Audi can just lay down that power from its V10 a lot better. And it's now flying along past the Alfa Romeo then, as Giovinazzi also fancies a pass on the Alfa Romeo. They're still side by side through the entirety of Sector 3 so far. Into the chicane, Ilott does amazingly to keep it down the inside. A bit of a corner cut over the bump there, but he's still neck and neck with the Italian there, and the Red Bull only just maybe has the edge over him as they cross the line now. And also trying to get involved is the Jaguar of Stoffel Vandoorne, my teammate Charles Leclerc, and also the Renault of Esteban Ocon, and Ocon's actually overtaken him, and Giovinazzi being pushed down, and he's now side by side with my teammate Charles Leclerc. Leclerc trying to go around the outside of Giovinazzi, and he's lost 3 positions now. So he tried to overtake one car, and instead he's lost 2 positions. So you can see the form book is truly out the window, and if you make a little mistake here, others might have more confidence than you in these dry conditions, and they're just going to capitalise on it and make you pay for it. And so that brings us on to lap 12 at the moment. You can see right up the gearbox of Valtteri Bottas here, and finding a lot of grip on these hard tyres. They seem to be performing very, very well, and of course I can lean on the hard tyres a lot more than I could on a set of mediums and softs potentially. So this is going to be a good thing for the Ferrari car, which has obviously had quite a lot of tyre wear compared to the other cars around us so far this entire season. So that's going to be good for me. And here we go now up the hill, found the grip, and we pull to the right hand side on the outside of the next corner as we go into sector 3. It's a big dive bomb on the outside, lock up on the front left tyre. Bottas pushes out wide, and to be fair, he does a fantastic job of defending, and I'm trying to give him the room, and that's actually not worked out. We've made contact on his side pod there. You've got literally inches of space to try and let off the throttle, and the car just snaps there. And so we try to dive down the inside into the first bit of the chicane. Doesn't work out. Do this switchback move effectively, try and straight up the car, and we're still riding the curb there and getting even more oversteer. And so this is being a lot tougher of a fight than I thought it was going to be with Valtteri Bottas. But now it's just a drag race down the main straight. DRS open for us though, no DRS for the Finn, and we're up now into P5. And so now the next cars up are the McLaren, Red Bull, and then McLaren. So hopefully we can at least overtake the McLaren, and then the Red Bull might be a bit of a different story. Let's see. So now we close up to Daniel Ricciardo 1 lap later on lap 13 around the outside. Big dive bomb once again, and similarly like Bottas, we lock up on the left front tyre. That corner is very tricky with the V10 cars, I must say. You just bring so much speed into that corner that the car just doesn't seem to slow down. And again, we try around the outside, but I get even more wayward than I did with Valtteri Bottas. You can see how much I'm trying to just wring the neck out of this Ferrari, because I am hungry for at least the podium minimum from P11 here, and I think we can try and do that. I need to at least try and catch Gasly for the sake of the championship, so we're really trying to push hard there, but just too much in the third sector, and so we're going to have to wait patiently into the first sector now to try and overtake Ricciardo if we can do as we go through turns 2, now turn 3, almost flat here in race conditions, little lift off there, now plant the power in 7th gear as we go up just about to 8th gear, down the inside as we enter sector 2, and we're just going to squeeze Ricciardo out, open up the steering wheel, and we're up the order, and we're up into P4. So the car is working beautifully, I must say. And meanwhile, this is on the same lap I was attacking Daniel Ricciardo. Pierre Gasly fancied a move on Lando Norris. So is the Red Bull finally going to overtake this McLaren car and spoil the party of the McLaren Junior here? Around the outside, the Frenchman goes on the young Brit. The hand of anger goes up in the cockpit for Norris as he locks up there. Bit of contact between the Red Bull and McLaren, but ultimately the Red Bull has the better grip, and you would assume eventually Gasly was always going to make that pass, and he is through up into P2, and now he has the potential to try and chase after that man, Max Verstappen, who's still doing a fabulous job of controlling his race from P1 from what was obviously a bonkers pole position in the full wet conditions on Saturday. And now we've got Carlos Sainz making a move now. Overtakes galore this is at the Spanish Grand Prix. Sainz around the outside. That's his favourite place to make a pass, it seems, this race weekend. He's made so many moves on the outside into sector 3 there, and he's up the order and past the BMW. And now you can see there on the mini-map was Gasly in. So he's in. Gasly's coming from soft tyres. He was on soft, and I assume he's going to be onto medium or hard tyres. So can we get past Lando Norris now on the end of lap 17 and then use the free stream air ahead of him to try and build a bit of an overcut strategy here as we go on the left-hand side. Very aggressive there with Lando Norris down the inside. DRS close. We slam on the brakes, and Norris has locked up very badly on the front right tyres. I look back behind me. He's literally lost every sense of grip there into that corner, and I suggest probably it's time for Norris to maybe come in along with Gasly there on that previous lap. But now you can see so much clean air ahead of us, and now we just push and push as much as we can until these tyres start to wear out, and then I'll come in for my pit stop, and we're going to have to see if this car has the pace try and make an overcut on Gasly potentially, and I'm going to have to pray that they work out. I mean, so far, this car has been performing so much better than I ever thought it could on the hard tyres here, you know, because if you look back at last season and the seasons gone by, the hard tyres have usually been horrendous at the Spanish Grand Prix. And if we look at a replay now, this is Gasly out once after he's made his pit stop. He's being held up here by the Haas there of Nico Hülkenberg. He's in a train with Mick Schumacher, and he almost breaks his front wing there. He just goes right up the gearbox of the Haas. But you can see there he's being held up in a huge train, and that is exactly what I need to see. Him being held up by traffic and me in clean air is going to be great. And now meanwhile, we've got now Max Verstappen has made his pit stop. He's come out just behind one of the McLaren cars that's yet to make the pit stop. Lando Norris is in, and there is Gasly ahead of Lando Norris, but Gasly crucially is quite some way behind Max Verstappen and that McLaren of Ricciardo. So let's see. I'm trying to do the maths in my head, but I'm not too sure if Gasly's far enough away from Verstappen and the McLaren that I'm going to come out ahead of him. We'll have to see, but Verstappen's going to waste no time at all to overtake the McLaren on the outside. Bit of contact actually that was, as Verstappen almost turned in a bit too early for the McLaren's liking there, but now on the inside of the right hand, just like Carlos Sainz has done so many times, a beautiful little move, and Verstappen dances the car in Sector 3, and he's up into P2, and now he can try and chase after my lead. And so as the laps go on in this Grand Prix, here I am in P1, just pushing flat out before I make my pit stop eventually. Then it's Max Verstappen in P2, who will regain the lead of this Spanish Grand Prix. Then the man in question, Pierre Gasly, quite some way back from Verstappen, and so he's the man I'm trying to jump with this overcut strategy here in my Ferrari. Then it's Lando Norris in the McLaren doing a great job still, but of course behind the Red Bull now in this race. Then it's Carlos Sainz, who has jumped Daniel Ricciardo, and Carlos Sainz doing well, and he might even fancy himself trying to close up on Lando Norris. And later on in this Grand Prix, that's exactly what might just happen, because here is Sainz now closing rapidly up on the McLaren, up the hill now towards Sector 3, and it's going to be that familiar place. Literally, I feel like Carlos Sainz has made about 5 million passes on the outside here, but he goes again. Don't fix it if it's not broke, I think the saying is, and Carlos Sainz makes another pass in a very similar fashion there, and he's now up into what will be, I think, P4 that is, in this Grand Prix. So a fabulous comeback drive from Carlos Sainz from what was P10 in qualifying. And we saw my teammate Charles Leclerc also doing really well earlier on in the Grand Prix in the comeback, but now you can see he's just about holding up Sebastian Vettel, and I feel like he's had issues with his car because he's going very, very slowly, and Vettel was now trying to attack him. Leclerc was up the road with Giovinazzi, but Giovinazzi's nowhere to be seen ahead of these guys, and with a bit of a lock-up there, and just how slow he's going and how easy the Audi passes him, I think Leclerc may have an issue with his car now in the second phase of this Grand Prix, because remember, he was literally there in the same train as me and Carlos Sainz and with Giovinazzi, but now he's down here just ahead of some Alfa Romeos and the Haas, I think, that was in the background, along with the Renault of Jack Aitken. So we'll see how he ends up. Obviously spun around at turn 1, so it was never going to be an amazing race for him, but he was doing pretty damn well. But meanwhile, anyway, back to us on lap 25 now, with 8 laps to go in this Grand Prix, or 7 it will be once we go on to this brand new lap across the line in the pit lane. 7 laps, and we're coming in for a set of soft tyres. We pushed as hard as we possibly can on these hard tyres, taking them right to the edge of the tyre wear zone, and now we're out on softs, and the question is going to be, where on earth is Pierre Gasly? I know Verstappen's already gone past me for P1 this Grand Prix, but I feel like we have done enough there. No one is there on track, and we are going to be out in P2 of the Spanish Grand Prix. We have successfully overcut jumped Pierre Gasly by an age there, and so that's going to be really, really good signs for us, and I'm sure the guys back in the garage there are going to be screaming about that. And now we've got a lot of clean air, we've got fresher tyres and faster tyres to maybe, dare I say, catch Max Verstappen. This could be a very poetic and romantic Grand Prix for us here at Ferrari. But meanwhile, we've got more fights going on later down the road. We've got Ocon round the outside of Daniel Ricciardo there. The Renault trying to come back in this race. Not been a great time for Renault as of late, but Ocon down the inside there of Daniel Ricciardo, and the McLarens are slipping back. But saying that, they'll still be on for a double points finish maybe. So we'll see how that goes. But now we move on to lap 29, a fair few laps after we made the pit stop, and we are closing up on Max Verstappen. We've got about 3 laps left in this Grand Prix. We've got DRS now. We're within 1 second of the monster Mercedes car. The Dutchman leading the way most of this entire Grand Prix, but the lock up there, we're pushing flat out to try and get this, because how crazy would this be as we move on to lap 30 now in Sector 1, at the end of Sector 1 into Sector 2. You can see now right up the gearbox almost of Verstappen. It's now time to just try and find the space and the position where we can try and make this move. I don't think it'll happen yet. We're going to have to maybe wait till up the hill and wait for that DRS zone in as we go into Sector 3. For now, just wait patiently and just try and stick behind as close as we can to the rear end of this German car as we now go up the hill. Little lift off there, then plant the power and sit gear. Open DRS, move to the right. Verstappen will stay to the inside to defend his position. Soft RV hard, surely will have the grip around the outside, but we go deep, and it's a lock-up on the left front tyre there. Bit of contact made. Verstappen holds the racing line, but now we switch it to the left-hand side. Try and find the grip on the outside, and there is a good amount of grip on the outside. Verstappen keeping his line quite tight on the inside there. Can we make a move to the inside of the chicane? No. Verstappen keeps it ahead for now. We have to be patient here, and we have to plant the power as fast as we can. Climb the gears now, open DRS, and now let's try and see how the slipstream's going to be. It should be pretty good. The car's pretty slippery in a straight line. Here we go now, gaining, up into turn 1 on lap 31 this is, down the inside, Verstappen locks up on the front left, and there we go, we're up into first place of the Spanish Grand Prix from P11 on the grid it was, in very horrible torrential conditions on Saturday, and we're coming through to win the Spanish Grand Prix, our first win for the team, for Scuderia Ferrari, Scuderia Ferrari's first win outright in the 2022 season here. We waited such a long time, so much bad luck, but it's happened finally. We win the Spanish Grand Prix in some style and go across the line in some style as well. There we go, the 15th win of my career in the MyDriver universe, and it's done in an emphatic fashion there, and I would want it no other way. From P11 to P1 here at the Spanish Grand Prix. How do you like that? Lovely stuff. Ahead of Max Verstappen, Pierre Gasly, and Carlos Sainz in P4. The McLarens with a double points finish there. They'll be so happy with that. And Vettel just about makes a great comeback for P10 from what was a low P14 or P15, I think it was, in qualifying. So, after that Grand Prix then, the standings look like this, guys. We are now into the lead of the Drivers' Championship by a measly 2 points to Pierre Gasly. Then a further 5 points back to Carlos Sainz in P3. And then a big gap then to Esteban Ocon, who's pretty much slipped out of the title fight here. So it looks like it's a three-way scrap with only about 5 rounds to go in the championship so far. Vettel P5 there still, and Max Verstappen with that P2 now gets ahead of my teammate, and he's up into P7 in the standings. So Leclerc will be very upset by that. Obviously, he's had 2 wins robbed from him, and it's just not gone his way, and it's a really harsh season for him, but he doesn't deserve to be there down in P8, but it's just the way the cookie crumbles, and both McLarens now in the top 12 of the driver's standings with that double points finish. So Lando Norris and Dan Ricciardo are going to be ecstatic by that. But as we move on to the Constructors table then, Red Bull Racing now are in the lead, but only technically, because they're actually on level points with DHL Audi Sport. Level points for 2 constructors there. Amazing stuff. And now, even with Leclerc not scoring, with that win that we've just got over Pierre Gasly and Carlos Sainz, we're only, as a team, what's that, 9 points behind Audi and Red Bull. So the constructors fight is still very much on, but I kind of need Leclerc to pull up his socks a little bit now and keep up with me for the next couple of rounds there. And Renault a bit of no man's land in P4. Mercedes do well to remain in P5, 115 points, but McLaren obviously will stay ahead in P6, ahead of BMW, but BMW are going to have a few upgrades maybe in the next few races to maybe try and catch them, as they're on 78 points there. And then you've got the bottom 3, the usual suspects, Haas, Alfa Romeo, and then Jaguar still there with no points scored today. But what a Spanish Grand Prix then, guys. What a race. And everything. Torrential rain at the start, mixed up grids, great overtakes, great racing, great wheel-to-wheel stuff, not only just with me, but also Carlos Sainz, Verstappen, Gasly, some great moves we saw in Sector 3. It was all kicking off in Sector 3, which is usually the dirty air sector where nothing really happens around Catalonia. But it all kicked off. So, guys, for that win, can we smash the like button there, guys? Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you are here, do subscribe for weekly full-on content. I've been aarava, home to the rest of the day, and I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.